Bonjour, ça va? Je suis Keegan Connor Tracy et je suis là à FrConventions. No, because I had a brand new baby when I got this show. I remember being at the audition vaguely with a, literally baby like this at the audition. And so when the show came, I was sort of like, and I did my part. You know, it was sort of relatively small in a couple of scenes in the pilot, and you just never have any idea. You do the pilot and you're like, okay, and you go on, and then the show got picked up. And but what I remember is doing, Eduardo, the costume designer, said, oh, you have to come to the wedding scene. I was like, okay, so I packed up. My older daughter was 3, and she wore her little princess outfit, and she had her little crown, and we went, and when I saw that, I was like, oh, like the scale of it was so grand, and the costumes, and just all of it, and I thought, oh, this might be something. And then when it aired, we were in production, but then when the pilot aired, we were all together. They had set up a sound stage and aired it, and I was like, oh yeah, okay. That was when you sort of had a clue that it was going to be something really special. I mean, I think the Blue Fairy, she was just more fantastical, and her costume was better, and I mean, being stuck in the nun outfit for 7 seasons was a little painful when Lana and Jennifer are wearing Prada and Alexander McQueen, and I'm on this nun thing still. I tried hard when I played Mother Superior to give her a story that they didn't really give me. You know, I just tried to always have something underneath it that made you question who she was, and if she was more than just this, you know, prim nun. And I think certainly there's a lot of people that, you know, talk about blue shady and all of that, so I guess it worked. But she didn't have a lot on paper, but I tried to bring extra to that. Well, there really wasn't anything. The Blue Fairy in Pinocchio really, first of all, she's blonde, and she was very different from the Blue Fairy that they made of me. And so there wasn't really anything to take from that. And then of course Mother Superior didn't exist at all within the Disney world. I just tried to imagine who she was in terms of the power structure, and you know, as far as I understood Rule Gorm and all that, she was the most powerful fairy, and I just tried to play it. To me, it seemed almost like the Pope. You know how the Pope is the one that's in charge of the rules of everything, and a lot of people hated that the Blue Fairy, you know, the whole thing with Tinkerbell and whatever, and I just tried to think about it like, these are the rules, and I am there to enforce the rules so that things work well in our realm and in our kingdom. And so I just tried to bring that sort of power dynamic to her. She just had to toe the line, I guess. I mean, on either side, I would love to have seen more of the Blue Fairy's origin story. And it would have been nice had she been able to branch out in the real world. I felt like it was strange that everybody else got to be a new something, but the Blue Fairy just had to stay as Mother Superior. I always personally felt that was sort of strange. They could have let her out of that cage, and there's a lot of things that she could have become. And I remember when people were first finding out who their secondary character was going to be, and I thought, oh, she runs the ice cream store, or you know what I mean, or the toy shop she's going to be. And then she was a nun. I was like, oh, okay, that was a bit of an adjustment. Good. It's you know, whenever it's like a family reunion, sort of some of us had not seen each other for some time. You know, Jen Morrison was not there in the 7th season, and so she was back, and she was so beautiful in her Grace Kelly dress, and that, you know, it was just nice to sort of tie up the bow of the series. And I have to laugh because at the wedding they at first were putting me in the nun thing, and I was like, do not, please. I actually called the series creators and said, this is the last time you'll see the Blue Fairy. She should be the Blue Fairy. And so I was really delighted that I had finally got a new dress in season I guess at the end of season 6, I finally got that skirt. I was like, yay! I was dancing in my trailer. And so I fought for her to have that be the last thing we saw of her. I thought that was important. I remember the scenes with Josh and Ginny, like with Snow and Charming. At the very end, there was a thing about the song. She was pregnant, we were on a balcony. I really loved that. It seems to me that whole episode where like Ginny and I were in the forest and I had the axe, and I remember that was good because a lot of times I was just in the green screen hanging in the air by myself. So it was really nice when I got to actually be in scenes with the other cast and like look at a person instead of a piece of tape on a C-stand or something. Yeah, I mean, look, Belle was a whole other universe, like a real true Disney character, you know, differently from the Blue Fairy. And sometimes it occurs to me, I'm like, oh my God, I got to play Beauty, you know, from Beauty and the Beast. It's wild to me. Like it was on a little while ago on TV and I sort of tuned in and was watching and I was like, gosh, there is a certain, like, she's iconic, that character. And it was really, I tell the story a lot about when in the first Disney movie of The Descendants, and I was at the palace thing, and there was a bunch of people out front that were Once Upon a Time fans, so they asked me to go down and talk to them, and then all of a sudden I was like, pictures and pictures and pictures, and I went to do a picture, and the person was way down here, and she looked and she was like, hi, Beauty, like with these big eyes, looked up at me, and I was like, oh, that's, you know, that's how you know you're playing a character that is important to so many people. And that one in particular, a lot of young people come up to me now, they're like, I watched that when I was a little kid. And yeah, I feel a little old when they say that, but it's nice to know that you're on both of these shows have been such a big part of people's childhoods. Cameron was 14, I think, when he started. Yeah, of course, I see them out there, and it's kind of wild to, you know, you see the transformation. Sofia is very much the same as I think Sofia was. She was always very grounded, and, you know, she had that look that she sort of has carried through, and her evolution has not been as surprising as, you know, sometimes when I look at Dove, the difference between what she looked like even on Descendants and all of that growth, and then you have somebody like Booboo who shaved his head and now he's doing all this kind of crazy art, and it's wild to see them as, you know, and of course it would have been wonderful to see Cameron grow up. That boy was a delight and he was so talented, and that's a painful thing to not be able to watch him grow up. You know, I don't think I understood who Kenny was when we first started. I certainly do now. And I remember on the first movie, there was the whole blue carpet stairs, and I was like, oh, we should do that, you know, the thing from Dirty Dancing. And Kenny just like did the dance. And I was like, what, how do you know that dance? He was like, I choreographed Dirty Dancing. I was like, what? What? You know, and then I realized he choreographed Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which was, you know, these were the massive movies of my youth. And then I sort of like, oh, okay. And then as we made the movies and I started to, you know, that was when I was looking into directing and I had started to direct myself, and then I came to really understand how big the ship was that he was steering and what a giant endeavor those movies were and how well he did to steer them as well as he did.